Have you always wanted to play a Froststiff Knight and feeling the power of the Lich King, but you find it a little bit too stressful, spamming Obliterate and Frost Strike in, high encounters, or maybe you just want a more relaxing time playing a Froststiff Knight? Well, then this video is for you. In this video here, I will cover how you can play with the single button assistant in the best optimized way, min-maxing with the single button assistant. So we will be going through the stats, the talent and the rotation you should be using with the single button assistant. I will also show you a short glimpse of gameplay that I recommend you basically to show you how I would play it myself. But let's get to it. When it comes to stats, what I always recommend is going with the highest upgrade level. So for example, if you have a champion weapon, don't go down to a veteran or an adventure weapon. Stay on your champion one until you get something that is better, like a hero or myth weapon. But in case you get a weapon that is the same upgrade level as the weapon you already have, like this one here, if this weapon here is an adventure weapon. If I got another adventure weapon, that is when I would start looking at the secondary stats. First of all, we have critical strike as the first one as a frost mage. Why, you might be asking? We have this talent here called killing machines. Your auto attack critical strike have a chance to make your next operate deal frost damage and critical strike. So that basically means normally our operate spell is split in half. Half of the damage is like physical damage and half of it, almost half, is physical damage and half is frost damage. Now, when you auto attack do a critical strike, your next operate will always be a critical strike as well, but it will deal full frost damage. And now you might be thinking, why is that a good thing? Well, that's because of our mastery. Our mastery increases all our frost damage abilities. So that means now operate will actually use all the power from mastery on it, and it will also crit. Also, when you have a two-handed weapon here, when you're using two-handed weapon, you can see here, and your auto attacks critical strike always grind killing machine. When you have two-handed weapon, it seems like you always get a like a critical strike will always be a killing machine, since we are like slower attacking. But when you're dual wielding, it seems like it's only like a 50% or something like that. But yeah, it just says here, like when you have a two-hand weapon, you actually deal 30% more on obliterate, frost scythe, but also the killing machine is always going to be whenever you crit. But that, of course, because before you have two weapons, like keep attacking, and then now you only have like a slow one. Regarding, just to mention that, you might be now thinking, should I then use a dual wield or should I be using a two-hand weapon? They actually say if you have dual wield weapons that has the same item level, upgrade level as a two-hand weapon, you should be using the dual wields. But if your two-hand weapon is higher eye level slash upgrade level than your dual wield weapons, you should be going with a two-hand weapon. We're talking 2 to 3% damage difference, so you don't have to think about it too much. But in case you get like a two dual wield weapons which is the same upgrade level as your two-hand weapon, then they do say if you want to deal 2 to 3% more damage, go with the dual wields, or stick with your two-hand weapon. It's not too big of a difference, but yeah, still. But as you can see, we have this. So that is why critical strike is such a nice spell, because it will just keep helping you with getting this killing machine effects. Also, as it said here, it will also make your next Frost Scythe critical strike and deal 4 times its normal damage, which is a very, very strong AoE ability we have. We only use this one here in the dungeon build and not the raid build. I'll come back to the build soon. Beside of that, critical strike also helps with this one here. When Pillar of Frost expires, your strength is increased by 60% for 6 seconds. This effect lasts 2 seconds longer, up to 20 seconds for each operate and Frost Scythe critical strike during Pillar of Frost. So again, the more crits you have, the more this one will stay on longer. In the raid build, it also helps on this one here. Your auto attacks critical strike have a chance to send out torrent of ice dealing, so you can just see like how much crit is actually like helping. It's insane how much crit is doing in this pick here. Then next we have Mastery. Mastery flat out just increases your frost damage. So you can see I have 28% Mastery, and it increases my frost abilities by 28% or 27.6. So yeah, again, just increases your damage of your frost abilities, which we like, because basically any spell we use is frost damage except Operate. That's like 50-50 physical and frost, unless it crits with Killing Machine, and then it will be a full frost spell. So yeah, Mastery, great, it's going to help you with everything. Thirdly, we're going to have haste. Haste is reducing the global cooldown, which makes you use spells faster. It increases your rune generation, increases your attack speed on auto attack, which of course is going to help. Like having a lot of haste in critical strike can actually be a good benefit, like bonus, because it will help you getting those auto attack crits. So haste also phenomenal, but on paper is just behind crit and mastery. And then we have versatility as the last one, which is just flat out increasing the damage you do, and half of it is going to reduce the damage you take. So also great thing, but it just increases damage and healing you do, and also reduces the damage you take. If you are a solo player who likes to do a lot of delves only and pretty much only play, you know, alone, then versatility can also be quite fantastic because it's going to make you way more tankier. For that, you could also, of course, do a lot of PvP because all the PvP gear has versatility on. But still, just mentioning it. Let's move on. When it comes to talents, we have two different builds. We have a dungeon build and a raid build. Both these builds can be found on my Discord server. I like to have them on my Discord server so I can keep updating them every time the meta changes or some like a patch note done something to the specs, so we actually have to like change around our talents. Many people I've seen is complaining about having them only on my Discord, but it just helps me personally to keep updating them so I don't have to go to different videos and update the strings over there. So I just have all my builds, all my plus 30 builds on my Discord, so I can just keep updating them there. So feel free to go to the description and join the Discord to find all my export codes for the different builds, which I will keep updating all the time. But we have a dungeon build and we have a raid build. The main difference between the dungeon build and the raid build is that the dungeon build we have a lot of AoE spells. We are, by the way, using Deathbringer, that is currently the meta and deals way more damage compared to Rite of Apocalypse. This one here, of course, the main in Unholy, but in Frost it's just Deathbringer. But regarding this build here, the dungeon build is a very AoE focused build. We are, for example, using Frost Scythe, which is great for, like, you know, instead of using Operate in AoE situations, we use Frost Scythe, which is also getting bonus from Killing Machine. We also have spells like Shattering Blade and Frostbane, which also deals AoE damage. So, and then we also just prioritize some more increased damage in Glacial Advanced. So this is the ones we're using the dungeon build, basically to get some more AoE damage. In the raid build then, we are not using Frost Scythe or Frostbane because we're getting more damage actually in a single target scenario against bosses. We're getting more benefits from Murderous Efficiency, which Consume and Killing Machine effect has a 20% chance to grant you one more rune. Also, Rime Empowered Holding Blast unleashes 2 Icy Blades as a target that deals 500 frost damage, and I have 50% chance to grant Killing Machine. So you can see, like, we're getting higher chance of getting Killing Machine's effects, and also we deal more damage to the current target we're on. Also, your auto attacks is increased by damage, and the amount of this amount is increased by each stack of Icy Talent you have active. And also your auto attacks critical strike have a chance to send out a torrent of ice, dealing 2600 frost damage to enemies in front of you. So this is just a lot of like talents that is increasing the damage you do to the target in front of you, like in a raid situation. Where these is more like AoE focused. Frostbane could also be great for like a boss fight, but still this is just the thing that is going to deal most damage on a single target fight, and we never want a Frost Scythe in a raid scenario. So again, this is like the raid build is for like single target wise, and the dungeon build is for multiple target wise. And they are using pretty much the same abilities. The only abilities we're not using, of course, is Frost Scythe, but you don't have to think about that one since it's inside single button system. But in the dungeon build, we have Blinding Sleet, which is helping us to mass interrupt targets. And in the raid build, we don't need that one. So you're not going to feel any difference playing these two specs. Of course, if you didn't use the single button system, you would have to spam Frost Scythe whenever you have more than 2 or 3 mobs. But since we're using single button system, it will take care of it. Also, both of the builds is using Breath of Sindragosa. You might remember me in the expansion, The War Within, talking about that we will never use this one here with single button assistant. They have changed how it works now. Before, Breath of Sindragosa it was like consuming your runic power, and you had to use a lot of spells that gave you a lot of runic power, so it didn't get cancelled. This is not the case anymore. Now, Breath of Sindragosa works differently. It just costs 60 runic power, And then you can actually increase the time on how long you want it additionally. So now it costs 60 runic power, calls upon Sindragosa to aid in battle for 8 seconds, continuously dealing 3000 frost damage every 1 second to enemies in a cone in front of you. Consuming killing machines or rhyme increase the duration by 0.8 seconds, deals reduced damage to secondary targets. So you can see here, before it was draining our power, and single button assistant didn't understand how it actually could help with that, because it would still use Frost Strike in the middle and basically spend all the runic power and destroy the Breath of Sindragosa. But now we actually just have, in the rotation part I'm going to tell you how we can do this best way, but we now just have to like open up, then use Breath of Sindragosa, and then spam single button, and it will try its best to keep it up and running. So it's quite efficiency now. So that's why we definitely go with it. I did try without this one here and tried other talents at the same time, but in all my testers, this one here just did more damage, so that's what we're going to stick with. In both the builds, we of course also use the Apex talents, which is very much increasing your Frostworm Fury. This one here is a cooldown that is inside your single button assistant. I wish Blizzard would take it out of the single button assistant so I could control whenever I want it to be used, but we said you just can't. But what it does, Frostworm Fury deals 100% increased damage to the first enemy it hits and grants you 50% haste for 12 seconds. I mean, we like haste. Frostworm Fury extends the duration of an active Pillar of Frost for 4 seconds, which is pretty nice. Enduring Strength grants an additionally 8 strength. That's pretty nice as well. Also, all frost damage is increased by 10, very nice. And Frostworm Fury deals 100% increased damage after the Frostworm flies away. You may cast Frostworm Fury again to recall it at 50% effectiveness. Basically, you can use it twice to deal double damage, which is pretty cool. So yeah, but again, this is what we have. Dungeon build, raid build, you can find it on the Discord. So when it comes to rotation, there is a little thing we can do to min-max this rotation. You could basically be using Breath of Sindragosa the moment you want, but so there's a thing, because Breath of Sindragosa is having a little tools up in the bottom. Grant a charge of Empower Rune weapon at the start and 2 runes at the end. So you don't want to just spam it, because you kind of want to wait till single button assistant has used an Empower Rune weapon, because then it's going to give you 1 charge back. So what you could do is you could, for example, use the in-game advanced cooldown manager, where I can actually, I'm using this one here again. This export code here is also on my Discord channel, but this makes me do so I can actually see when it uses my Empower Rune weapon. So the moment I can see that it used it, I will use my Breath of Sindragosa ASAP, because then it will give me one of these charges back again. And just to have a good reminder on this, what is a single button assistant actually doing? It will be using Empower Rune Weapon, Frost Strike, Frost Scythe, Frostworm Fury. It will also use the second time where we can use it. Glacial Advance, Howling Blast, Obliterate, Pillar Frost, and Reaper's Mark. So also, I am using, because people keep asking about that one, so why not mention it? I'm using an add-on called Trophy GCD, which shows which spells that I'm using. It doesn't show what I'm supposed to use, it shows what my single button is using. It's a great tool for like learning how to do your rotation, since it will kind of show you what you should be doing. Also, just a quick note, in case you're thinking about what rune forging you should be using. So when you're using two-hand weapon, you should just be using Rune of Fallen Crusader. If you're using dual wield, you should be using Razorize and Fallen Crusader. So for example, Fallen Crusader on your main weapon, Razorize on your off weapon. But yeah, just to let you know. Alright, so let's test the rotation. So here you can see, I'm going to press 1. And now it already used actually Empower Rune Weapon at the start. So whenever I have enough energy, I'm going to use Breath of Sindragosa and now spam 1 as much as possible. Because every time we have a crit, you can see here, Breath of Sindragosa keeps going up in time every time we have a killing machine crit. So you can see, yeah, there we go again. And we go again. Because it keeps going up in time every time we had a rhyme and whenever we had a killing machine. So as you can see here, call blah blah blah, consuming killing machine or rhyme increases the duration by 0.8 second to deals reduced damage to the secondary target. So that means you will start blasting with single button system. The moment you see that it is using Empower Rune Weapon, you should be using it, because if you use it before it uses Empower Rune Weapon, you're basically wasting a charge. And this one here is going to help you, because drain the will of your enemy, empower your rune weapon, dealing 5,000 Shadow Frost damage, and reduce damage to enemies nearby, gaining 40 runic power and grant you killing machine. It literally gives you a killing machine the moment after you use it, which is going to increase the time of Breath for Zaragoza. Also, you have the spell, where is it? Actually, it's probably in my spellbook here. Frost Strike and Glacial Advance have a 60% chance to cause your next Howling Blast to consume no runes and deals 350% additional damage. When this happens, it also increases the time of your Zaragoza. Should we try this one more time? So we can see here, we're going into combat with some auto attack. It's going to start using our Pillar of Frost, which is fine because that increases our damage by 30%. And now you go. Now you can see it used it, so now we can already use it. And now it's going to be, you can see here Breath of Zaragoza keeps going up in time. You can see it's go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, which is really good. So it really like helps us dealing damage. And you can see here the damage done is Frost Scythe, Frostform Fury, and Breath of Zaragoza. So it actually deals a good amount of damage. Of course, if you are in a dungeon where you switch a lot between mobs and then it's first ready every 1.5 seconds, then some people might be, saying maybe it is worth taking not this one here with this one here, but still from all my small testers, whenever I have burst windows, this one here was just more worth it, and so I would still say Breath of Zaragoza is pretty good. I'm sure if you didn't play with single button assistant, you would be able to cast 20% more spells, since we are getting the punishment from single button assistant. So, still, I find it pretty valid. But that is basically the rotation. You just spam one, and every time you can see that it's using Empower Rune Weapon, you can use your Breath of Zaragoza. Of course, in existing combat where you already have Empower Rune Weapon on cooldown, then you can just use it whenever you fit. But of course, it would be a good idea to maybe use it when you have a little bit more power, so you're ready to like, or runes. Just use it whenever you want, really, but yeah. As a tradition, I'm going to tell you what the other spells are doing, since we have a lot of new people also watching these guys who wants to know what the other spells we have are doing. We have Death Strike on number 3, which is a spell that you use for self-healing. So whenever you press Death Strike, it's going to heal you for 32% of all the damage you have taken the last 5 seconds, but it will minimum heal you for 11% of your maximum health, which is insane. So you can see every time you can see it becomes available and you need self-healing, you can press free, and it will keep spam healing yourself. It's a really strong spell, and we also have this bonus here. When you kill an enemy that yields experience or honor, your next Death Strike within 20 seconds is free and heals for 10% more at the maximum health. So whenever you kill a mob that is like, in the same plus 10, minus 10 levels, it will like light up and it will be free, and then you could use it if you need some self-healing. On number 4, we have Anti-Magic Shell. It basically gives you like a shield that is like half your HP, and it's only against magic damage. But when you have this one on, you cannot get harmful spells on you, like curses and stuff that actually like is on you for over time. So it's a pretty cool spell that you could use, especially if you know the boss is about to throw a lot of like spell damage out. Then, imagine this mob here was casting a spell I want to interrupt it to. Then we have number 5, Mind Freeze. You can use every 15 seconds. So it tries to cast a spell, then I can use this one here, Mind Freeze, and it will interrupt it. Then we have Death Advance. It's a spell that makes you run really, really fast. So in case you are in a counter, or your tank is running fast, you need to follow, or you're in a raid where you need to move out of something, you can use Death Advance to basically help you move out. Then we have Death Grip, which is a spell that, in case let's say the tank is here with you, and you want to help him get the 2 mobs or her, the 2 mobs over there, then you can use Death Grip and basically grip the mobs over here and help the tanks in that way. We also have Lichborn, which makes you undead, so you're immune for charms and fear and sleep. And also it gives you 6% leech, which is pretty cool because we already have default 3% leech, and this one here is going to help you with 6% more leech. So what leech does is that if you have 3% leech, then 3% of all the damage you deal is going to heal you for 3% of the damage. If you have now with Lichborn 9%, then it's going to give you 9% of all damage you deal back to healing, which is pretty cool. Then we also have Iceborne Fortitude. That's, for example, a spell when someone in your raid group yells or use defensives. This is the one of them, because it will basically reduce all the damage you take by 30%, which is really, really good. Then we have Anti-Magic Zone, which is going to reduce all the magic damage you take by 15%. And it will be... yeah, it actually doesn't say anything with that. Yeah, just 50% less damage from magic damage, which is also pretty cool. Then we have Raise Ally. In case one of your team members, they die in combat, then you can get them back from inside combat, which is pretty cool. Now imagine all these 5 mobs here were casting a spell at the same time and we want to interrupt them all. Then you can use the next one here called Blinding Slate, and it will now interrupt them all and make them for 3 seconds like walk around like this. If someone attacks them after that, they will also get out of that interruption state. But still, we mainly use it for interrupting mobs, so now we have 2 interrupt spells. Then we also have Chains of Ice. In case this one here was chasing our healer, you can use Chains of Ice and it will run slow. Then we also have Raise Stat. Raise Stat is not a spell that's going to help you deal more damage. Many people think Raise Stat is a damage spell. It's not. The main reason for why you summon your gold, trust me, it deals no damage. The main reason for why summoning is because of this one here, Enfeeble. Your gold's attacks have a chance to apply Enfeeble, reducing the enemy's movement speed by 30% and the damage they deal to you by 12%. So it's a defensive spell. It helps you surviving, like it helps you take less damage. But yeah, it's a cool one. Some people, they also take this one here, Death Pack, creates a Death Pack that heals you for 50% of your maximum health, but absorb incoming healing equal to 30% of your maximum health for 15 seconds. So I saw in the raid build, meta build, they actually used this one here, but I'm not a fan of it, so I picked something else, but you can take it in case you want. But yeah, again, now that we talked about Raise Stat, this is a defensive spell, because trust me, if I summon my Raise Stat, you can see if I do auto combat here, and I summon it, you can see the damage it does right now. It doesn't even get close to my auto attack. Like, look at this, Claw, 7, like now it has dealt there. Auto attack 1000, Claw 1000. It can't even get close to my auto attack. So yes, it is not a defense, like it's not a damage spell, it's a defensive one. Like if you're against a boss or something like that and you want to reduce the damage they deal to you, then you summon Raise Stat. So not a damage spell. But again, that was basically the rotation on how to play it. Let's try and do a little dungeon test and see how much damage we can deal on like a big pack of mobs and also on a boss. Alright, so normally the tanks would pull basically this room entirely, but since we have a follower mode dungeon, which is gonna help them pull all the things, they're gonna be doing more damage than me in the start here, but we should be fine, just using my defensives. And now we can use our burst. There we go. Getting on, waiting for that weapon one. Now we can use my second spell, my cooldown, and we can see the damage down here is doing very, 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 very good. Like, I cannot complain. 140k DPS. Not bad at all. And the only thing we did was spamming one, and when it used my Empower Rune weapon, then I used my second spell, which is Breath of Sutagosa, and after that I am just spamming one again. Now we're down to a little 100k DPS, but still pretty valid. It's pretty valid. I mean, normally if you played Frostdeath Knight, you would have had to use a lot of different spells. You would have to switch between, you know, normally you would have used like Howling Blast and then Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike, and Power Rune Weapon, Frostworm's Fury, Pillar of Frost, Rebirth Mark, Glacial Advance, like Frost Scythe. There's a lot of spell you would have had to go through. Some people, of course, knows how the rotation works, and they're really good at it, and they can handle it. Me personally, I don't know. I just feel, I feel personally like I'm getting too old. I don't know. But that's why I really like the single button assistance, since it just helps me doing this great damage without having to press like 7 different buttons. But yeah, let's try and get to a boss. Alrighty, let's try a boss fight. So, charging in with the tank. And here we go. It has used the weapon, so I'm gonna be using my number 2. Gonna put the flame here. So far, we are the one dealing most damage, having a DPS on steadily 40k. Let's see. Oh, I of course didn't move from that. That just wasted some of my damage. And now the mage came in front of me. How embarrassing. Well, still. Oh. And I screwed up at the mechanics again. I hope no one is seeing this. But so far, it seems like, you know, damage-wise, we are getting okay. Through the entire dungeon, I saw that I was doing supreme damage when it came to AoE mobs. But I see, like, now on single target-wise, it's kind of like me and these bots here. They do quite good damage in single target-wise. But, I mean, we had a decent damage on the single target-wise. Reaper's Mark was definitely doing the most damage. Then we had Exterminate, Operate, Frost Strike, Breath of Zaragoza. But, I mean, all was fine. Probably if I didn't fail twice and was spinning around in that tornado, I was dealing more damage, but yeah. But again, of course, in a raid scenario, you would be using the raid build, which is giving you more single target damage. In a dungeon, we're going to be shining on multiple targets, and then when it's single target, we're going to be doing a little bit less, but I mean, 90% of the dungeon is going to be mobs, so I guess that's fine that we can be shining there, but not on the bosses so much. But yeah, that was pretty much the rotation. Or no, sorry, the gameplay. So thank you so much for watching my Frosted Night guide by using the single button assistant. I hope this video has been helpful and will help you having a good time in World of Warcraft. Again, remember all my talents, my UI, my cooldown manager, everything is on my Discord channel. Link in the description. In case you want to support, feel free to subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, everything helps me, so really appreciate it. Or if you want to go even further, you can become a YouTube member, and your name will also be highlighted in the end of the video. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next guide.